Yeah, I'm going live. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in every part of the world. Good afternoon, good evening, hello, because I know that different ones of you are in different time zones. So we just want to welcome you today to today's show and say hello. You are listening to All Things Lifestyle with Rena Laster, where all things are important to God in regard to our lifestyle and how we live. We could do out of the box ministry with our lifestyles and with everybody that we meet. You can do it whether you're on the street, whether you're on the playground, in the boardroom, whether you're in your kitchen cooking, wherever you may be, God will open doors for you to do ministry with other people. So today we're going to talk about out of the box ministry from a whole new perspective. We're going to talk about a road trip that we recently took, and we all got to minister to each other as well as to people that we met. And we're going to talk about that today. So, what I'm talking about and what I'm calling this is all things friendship, all things family, all things road trip, what we know for sure. What we know for sure. And so, first, let me introduce our guest to you. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in their own way, and then we will delve into the conversation. So, first, we have Wilma, and then we have Brian, and I will let you introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Wilma Cook, and I'm coming to you from Huntsville, Alabama, Madison, Alabama primarily. And I am a family member of Rena's and a new friend of Brian.
Okay. And Brian?
Hi, I'm Brian Van Yerton, and I am from Oahu, Hawaii. And I am a new friend of Rena's and Wilma's. And actually, Miss Wilma's son-in-law is a great friend of mine, and we've been
Yeah,
friends since at least I think 1997 or 98.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we met here in Hawaii on a road trip.
And a
Right.
road trip. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. I don't know if any of you have been watching some of the old Oprah shows, but Oprah and Gail took a road trip years ago, and they, I think, traveled out west
Yeah.
and had a lot of stuff going on, and they visited a lot of places, talked to a lot of people, and had a lot of experiences. And one thing that Gail says is that, I mean, Oprah says that a lot of people will say to her, "This is my Gail," or "This is," somebody will say, "This is my Oprah," which means they're talking about their level of friendship. So I guess Wilma and Brian now are my Gail and my uh, I don't know what a guy's name would be, but yeah, some newfound friendships on a whole nother level. And so that's
Yes.
what we are going to talk about today. When you go on a road trip, it's quite an experience, and it's a way to bond with each other and to come together on a whole new level. And I would encourage anybody to do it at least once in their lives, with friends, with family, because you actually get to see each other on a whole new level and another kind of playing field. And so I made some notes, and one of the things that I said was that from the road trip, it was all things wisdom, all things family, all things good food, all things adventure, all things blessings, all things joy. There were just so many all things. And so let's start by talking. We won't get deep right away. Let's talk about all things adventure. Wilma, what were some of the all things event that you experienced and that the road trip afforded you during this time?
Well, I'd like to let your audience know that we went to Honolulu, Hawaii. And
Hmm.
this was for everyone except myself, the first time that we had been to at Hawaii. I lived there twice when my husband was active duty, but we went as family members. You, my sister-in-law, uh, three cousins, and our new friend Brian. So it was an adventure where we took into account, before we took the trip, what were the limitations and desires and needs of everybody on the trip. So that was one of our primary goals, was to make sure that we kept everyone's desires and choices in mind throughout the day.
Hmm.
So for 5 days, we had a great time. It was the first time I'd ever really been alone without other family members, without children or spouses. Uh, and Brian being our only male in the group. And Brian was our driver and our uh, adventure guide all the way. And so it was wonderful having someone who had planned ahead and knew what we wanted and sought to make those all things happen.
That's true. That's true. And it was quite an adventure. And I must say that Brian definitely made it adventuresome.
Oh yeah.
All the way from taking us way on the top of a mountain where we were looking down, just from a whole new vantage point, to seeing the beaches and just so many different things. So, Brian, how was that for you, sharing the adventure and sharing the things that you pretty much live with every day?
Oh, it was so much fun. It feels like I imagine what Santa Claus must feel like, giving away presents kind of thing, to kids around the world. It's kind of like I'm not very materialistic as a person, but I'll use gold as an example. These spots are good as gold, and it feels good to bring people to these spots that I grew up, you know,
Hmm.
hanging out at or seeing. A lot of them are secret spots too that you don't find on the internet. They're just kind of like
Right.
you grew up in the neighborhood and kids talk about these spots.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah, it
you
felt
you
good.
saw it. You saw it from a different vantage point from any of us. It was all new to us. I mean, we were fascinated. I was fascinated by trees and rainbows. I mean, just the simple things of the island, and certainly all that great Hawaiian food.
Yes, the food was
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. And I remember that was one of the things Brian kept saying when he first picked us up. He said, "We're going to be taking a lot of stops and trying a lot of food." And it was good. It was good.
Right. I
So,
mean, for 5 days we didn't eat anything familiar. No traditional places that we would eat at home. It was everything, all things Hawaiian.
all things Hawaiian. Yeah, I like that. It was all things Hawaiian. And it was just really, really good. All the way from food trucks to little out of the way places that people, like Brian said, secret places that people didn't know about. So that was part of the adventure. But during this adventure, we did bonding on a whole nother level as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wilma, what would you say about the bonding as family, as friends, seeing it on a whole nother level when you spend this amount of consolidated time together, where you get to do and see things that you didn't ordinarily get to see with each other?
Well, as I mentioned before, I was traveling with you as a sister-in-law I'd known for over 40 years, and cousins that I grew up with as little kids, and we never traveled or ventured out together. So it was wonderful seeing that our personal experiences, though they were different, they were so much the same.
Hmm.
uh, so very much the same. We wanted just a time for peace and solace and just togetherness and just sharing the goodness of God in a whole new way, without making it blatant or in anybody's face, but just looking at how God had blessed each one of us to even do this.
Yeah, that was definitely a blessing. And one of the things I remember Brian saying was that he had gained so much wisdom from
Mhm.
just being with us. So, Brian, can you address that?
Yes. Well, getting to know each and every one of you individually, um, I was able to learn about, I guess, different perspectives and different um, aspects of life, like all things, like you're saying, all different categories,
Mhm.
but just that concentrated, consolidated amount of time together. Um, it's I don't know. It's kind of like our minds kind of mesh together
Mhm.
in that experience. It's like I'm immersed in it's a family of, I don't know how to explain it, but there's some wisdom coming from all angles. Like I kept hearing suggestions like do it now, follow your dreams now.
Mhm.
I think every one of you ladies had said that to me at one point, at some
Mhm.
point. Do it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't wait. Because I remember mentioning that I was waiting to be prepared before I move forward with my dreams of being a performing artist as a musician and songwriter. And so that made a huge difference in my life. And every day I think about all the things you guys had said to me, uh, or all the things you ladies had said to me.
Mhm.
And uh, yeah, it's
I know Brian introduced us to, so much music and culture that was outside of the our norm, and yet we appreciated it so much, and we all went there with certain preconceived ideas about Hawaii, but we saw it through the eyes of a native, and so it was so much more pleasant. Even after
Mhm.
I lived there, I went to places I'd never seen before and had lived there for over 6 years, and I'd never been to those places in the entire 6 years period of time. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, and to see it, it was exciting to see it from Brian's perspective because he
Yeah,
was just so excited, you
yeah,
know, about sharing with us. And,
yeah,
this kind of brings to mind how we should be excited about sharing our faith and
yeah.
sharing our love with each other. And when I mentioned earlier that um, all things lifestyle and how we can share our faith and our ministry, we were actually ministering to each other on a whole another kind of level
Yeah.
because like you said, Wilma, this is the first time you had been away from family and kids, and it
Mhm.
was definitely blessing for me to be away from family and kids, and you could focus on yourself and on self-care. And it's not selfish to be able to do that. Some people say it's selfish, but it's not, because if
No,
you can't give from a full cup when
right.
you're sharing with other people, then you find that you don't have a lot to give, or it's not
Mhm.
as beneficial to the other people because they're pulling from you. They're drawing
Right,
from you, and they're drawing from something that you can't really give at that time.
right.
Brian, you're a caretaker, staying at home with your kids. Did you find that being away from the kids was different in the time you spent with us?
yes. It was like well, you can't be in two places at the same time, so it was like a whole new experience for me for that whole week. Um, I missed my babies, you know,
Mhm.
more, and when I came home and saw them, it was just like a different, you know, gosh, I would just sit there and stare at them, when they're sleeping or
Mhm.
whatever, or hug them
Mhm.
tighter even, kiss them
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And being able to talk about them when they're not around, being able to talk about my wife and kids to some new
Hmm.
friends and just, rave over them. It was fun. It was fun
Hmm.
having, new friends like you ladies being interested and, what's going on with my family, and me being able to share pictures with them. It was a something that you don't do if you're at home with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
And
was
even
kind of a
yeah,
eye opener.
yeah, even share with one another, about our families. And we are family. And yet there were aspects of the family that I came to appreciate that I didn't know before. I mean, I
Hmm.
didn't because it was things that you just normally don't share on a regular basis. Not because you are trying to hide it, but it just never came up in regular conversation. And
Right.
you talked about religion. We even shared a religious opportunity that we didn't even seek after. There we were at this bakery, sitting there eating, and this lady just walked by and said hello, and just invited us to her church.
Hmm.
And 3 days later, we sought her church out and had a wonderful experience there, sharing that Sunday morning with all of us, all six of us ladies and Brian. We
That was
all,
fun. That was a
Yeah.
first for me. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a first for me. It was just like in the movies. I was singing and dancing, clapping my hands, and yeah, I was having a lot of fun. Thank you so
Wow.
much for inviting me to that
Did,
experience. Yeah.
did you get to take your wife yet? Because I know you said you wanted to take her.
Not yet, not yet, but I will.
Hmm.
Definitely, I've told her about it. She knows how much that I want to go there. Our children are too young still. We have a kind of a newborn and a toddler,
Hmm.
and waiting till this pandemic blows over and the youngest gets his all his vaccinations. But we're
Yeah.
gonna be going to that church for sure.
Because it was so funny because it was to me, I don't know what I expected, what I thought, but to find the name of the church, number one, it was what was the name of it? It
Uh,
wasn't a full gospel church, but it was uh let's
St.
see, French.
Sebastian. Or,
Whatever the name of the church was one of the churches you find in America. Well, we were in America, but at home, you know, and everybody was just like we were at church at home. Um, and the interesting thing too was it shows you how small the world is. A lot of the people knew some people that we knew, and that I found interesting because one of the deacons had a brother in the county where I live in Georgia. He knew a family, the Fuses, and who live in Americus, Georgia, where Wilma is originally from. And there was somebody else from another county. So even though we were just miles and miles away, even that closeness from meeting people, who knew people that we knew. So it was like all things, hey, the world is not so big and you can meet people in different places. The other thing to me that was really interesting was how we, like Brian had said earlier, we did share wisdom with each other. Wilma and I were in the same room. Carolyn was in another room with Mika and her sister, and then Latasha was in another room. Well, there were six of us in all. But at night, we would stay up late, talking and having conversations and sharing wisdom with each other. And I think one night, Wilma, we were up till what, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then right back up early to go someplace. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. Wilma, your sound is out. You can't hear us. Brian, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
I
yeah. All right. Well, we'll let Wilma work on hers. Something happened with her sound for a moment, but yeah, being able to just share and stay up late at night. And then the other thing was we were up late, giggling and telling funny things that happened. Are you back, Wilma? So we were up laughing and joking and, telling all kind of funny experiences. One thing that we laughed about the whole time was Latasha and Carolyn and Nita and those talking about an experience they had in the airport on the way. And that they were, I think, she had an experience on the escalator and was not used to it and not used to the speed with which the steps were moving, and they fell. And so we could laugh because nobody got hurt, so it was something we could laugh and talk about. But it was an experience that we shared together. So Brian, the places that you took us, like the mountain, I think it was called Chinaman's Hat. What exactly was that? Because every time I think about the trip now, I think about Chinaman's Hat.
Chinaman's Hat. It's
Uh-huh.
a small little island in the right off the coast of Kualoa Beach. Um, yeah, near Kaneohe Bay, there's that. I can't remember the name of the island, Mokulele or something. I can't remember the Hawaiian name for it at the moment. I think I want to say Mokulele. I could be wrong, but yeah, that little island. It's just an iconic piece of Hawaii history, I guess you could say. It's in Hawaiian legends, ancient Hawaiian legends. But it's called Chinaman's Hat. Everyone knows it as Chinaman's Hat. But there are Hawaiian legends that island is actually the tip of a lizard's tail. A giant lizard got his tail chopped off and thrown out there in the ocean. I think that's one of the stories that, if I can remember correctly, from childhood. Sometimes in elementary school, the librarians would read to the children, Hawaiian legends from these tiny little black Hawaiian legend books.
Oh,
Stories
okay.
of Pele. They have the Hawaiian culture has a lot of these different deities, like the volcano goddess, or the goddess of fire, Pele, probably the most famous one that people know about that come to visit Hawaii. I don't really remember the story about Chinaman's Hat, but it's it's a famous uh, little island. My auntie and uncle had a painting in their house, and it was really interesting because this painting showed the um, the Chinaman
Hmm.
under the ocean. He's like a giant, and he's got this long beard and long hair, and I can't remember if he's just sleeping there under the ocean, and just his hat is the only thing you see, coming out. But it's one of those perspectives from seeing under the water and above the water. Really
Oh,
interesting
okay.
painting.
Interesting. Wilma, can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Okay, I think Wilma has lost her sound, but we still can see her. Um, and we'll just continue. Maybe her sound will come back. But the other thing I remember, these are just some great takeaways for me from the trip. The Chinaman's Hat. I remember the inactive volcano, um, and the luau's. And these are things that people actually go to Hawaii to see. So the luau was very interesting. I was surprised because on television you often see the pig and it's like a whole pig over some with slits over a fire, but we didn't get to see that part. But we saw well, when I saw the pig, he was all chopped up. So I don't know if that's part of the legend or how they do it or what. But can you tell us, I guess the luau, is that the for the purpose of giving people a Hawaiian experience, or um, what exactly is the luau all about?
Yeah, it's a celebration. From what I understand in the Hawaiian culture, is that the luau isn't a daily cuisine. It's not. You wouldn't have the lau lau and kalua pig. Um, that's what we call in Hawaii. Pork. They call it kalua pig.
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the pulled pork and the lao lao. That stuff is for special occasions. I imagine, big celebrations and things like that. Or large family gatherings, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, from what I understand, luau, it's a feast with entertainment, with music. You know, Traditionally, I think it would be some kind of music going on. The hula show and the fire dancing and all that stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
I think that was added later, more as a thing to please the tourists. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
but back in old Hawaiian days, yeah, you wouldn't be having a luau every day. I don't know if they had birthday celebrations back in the old days, but I definitely was told that it's for special occasions. And so when you have malahini, they call it, or people out of towners coming to visit, Hawaii, part of the aloha spirit and Hawaiian culture is it's always been very sharing and um, just very the good side of the um, sharing is it's people feel good about it,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that in all kinds of cultures. You see that in people who have share our faith. For example, you have a lot of that giving, sharing, and good hosting. Welcoming people, and that's the spirit. Um, I don't know. I'm not the expert on it. This is just from what I understand.
Well,
You
so
know.
do the people from Hawaii actually go, or is it mainly for us? Wilma, are you back? Can you hear us? You can't hear?
You
I
have
can't
people.
hear you. Can you hear me?
I
Yes,
can hear you. We
You
can
can
hear
hear
you.
we
me?
hear you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't hear you, so I will just speak on a subject. I, I
Yeah, just
I think that one of
okay.
the things
Talk.
that made this trip enjoyable for us, in addition to planning, was the fact that we were we were of various ages. We ranged in age from 74 to 40 plus, and yet we were respectful of one another's ages, our limitations, physical limitations, our spiritual limitations, our financial limitations. And I think that's what made the trip a very positive and enjoyable one, because we were respectful of everybody's needs and everybody's desires, and everybody had the opportunity to say what they wanted and get, I think, what they really wanted out of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end, everybody says, okay, what about plan trip two? When is it going to be our comeback tour?
Yeah, yeah, because we're all ready to go back, and we got to save some money though. We got to do the money thing. Got to, mm. But it's worth it, and we've all said that we're gonna get Brian to be our tour guide.
I
So
already found a new spot for you guys, a new beach that I've never been to before. I was just walking down the beach and I was like, I thought to myself, for the sequel, I gotta bring
mhm.
these ladies back here, you know.
Wow.
And
So
so
I bet you see things from a different perspective too. When you see things now, you think about us and what you can show us.
yes, yes,
Hmm.
and knowing that, um, being be on that road trip with you folks, it was like realizing that time is limited. Um, you guys have a plane to catch, at the end of the week, so we have to go for the best of the best. And so I needed to realize that we go for the best first.
Hmm.
That's what I've learned.
Okay.
Go for
Okay.
the best places first. And you guys
Good.
still haven't got a chance to see Lanikai, and that's the beach where there's the two little islands out there.
So that's next
I
time.
think that's the Mokulua Islands. Yeah. So that next time we go there, we'll go there first. As soon as we
Okay.
get off the plane, we'll go to Lanikai.
Okay. Okay.
Lanikai.
So Wilma, will you be our tour guide? Well, she hung. She's. I guess she's gonna go out and try to come back in. But with Wilma, I think she kind of did a lot of the planning, and then we just kind of came along and she asked us our opinions about different stuff, and but really, we thank you, Brian, because if it had not been for you and the perspective that you gave us, that would have totally been a different trip because, traditionally when people go on a trip, they see all of the touristy kind of things, but you showed us the real Hawaii, the real Hawaii. And that's the thing we liked all the way from the stores to go to the shops and everything else was I'm trying to see if Wilma's back. Let's see. Um,
Hi,
okay,
Miss
Okay, I
Wilma.
made it back.
you're back.
Welcome
Okay,
back.
I
so
still
you're
can't
back.
hear
We
you
missed
all, but
you.
I'm back in the fold anyway.
Okay, well, we got I can't see, 1 minute left.
Okay.
So we'll get some closing remarks from you and from Brian.
I'm not sure what the question was, but I think that the thing that I learned from this trip was that family is important, friendship is important, and when you just put all of those things together and not have any other expectations other than just to enjoy one another and just let it happen, and that's what we did, and I think we did that, and I appreciated the opportunity. I thank Brian for his time, and I
You're
thank all of
welcome.
you ladies for just making the time for me an enjoyable one.
Thanks. Okay,
You're all
Brian.
very welcome. You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. No uka haoli. The pleasure is mine. The happiness is mine. Can't wait to do it again. Anytime. Anytime. Love you. Love you all. And can't wait to spend time with you again. Maybe we can
All
do some
right.
camping too next time. Or
Okay, that'd be
glamping.
good.
Glamping.
Okay, aloha, Brian. Aloha,
Aloha.
Rena.
All right, aloha. And so we're closing out today's show, and we thank you all for listening to All Things Lifestyle, where we've been talking today about going on a road trip. How ministry, and if you have listened, you hear about how we were able to minister to each other, to Brian, to people who we came in contact with, and we get to do it without quoting scripture because life is about living the scripture and not just speaking scripture. And so tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. for All Things Lifestyle. And we look forward to you tuning in with us in the future. And who knows, we may have part two to this because there were 5 other people who were on the trip that didn't get to talk about their perspective. So we may do a part two to this broadcast. But again, thank you for tuning in to All Things Lifestyle every Thursday at 5 p.m. We look forward to your tuning in. But until then, live life out of the box. And like Brian said, do it today, do it now, because time is not promised to anyone. Live life out of the box. Let your life minister because others are waiting for you and they can experience and benefit from what you have to share. So until next week, I can't see y'all can't see me waving, but I'm trying to wave. Bye. Bye. So we'll see y'all on next Thursday. Thank y'all again. Bye bye.
Thank you, Miss Wilma. Thank you, Miss Rena.
Bye,
All
everyone.
right. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Have a good evening.
Have a good
Okay.
evening.